So who here likes TV and uses it regularly in your life? TV? Only that many of you use the theological virtues in your life? That's obviously what I was referring to, right? The theological virtues, hopefully many more of you will use them in your regular life by the time we're done this series. And a quick recap of the last 2 weeks using an example of bagels. So the theological virtues are faith, hope, and love. We talked about faith and hope the last few weeks, and I bought a bagel. And I have faith that it's still sitting at home waiting for me. I can't see the bagel. I don't see it right now, but I believe it's there. And is it reasonable to believe it's there? Certainly, because Father Tim and Deacon Carl are on vacation. So no one is there to have eaten my bagel. I'm going to get home and enjoy some nice toasted sesame with cream cheese. It'll be great. That's faith. That's knowledge. That's truth. Secondly, I hope to go home and eat that bagel. I have a desire for it. I have an expectation of it that flows from the faith, flows from my knowledge. Okay? We're talking about God, not bagels, but you get the idea. Today we talk about love. And as you can imagine, I love bagels. But it's a theological virtue. And you know what? At the beginning of the series, I never even explained to you what a virtue is. So the Catechism says that a virtue is a habit, a habitual, firm disposition to do good. So as I talked about faith and hope, I talked about how we need to not just have a general faith, a general hope, but we need to apply it in all the different areas of our life. We need to choose to make them a habit. And it becomes part of our disposition, our whole character, to live in this way, to have the theological virtues as a part of our day-to-day life. St. Paul, when he's talking about the virtues and all of the gifts that the Spirit gives us, he talks about, our gifts of prophecy and speaking in tongues and knowledge. Well, he says all of that's going to fade away. We're not going to need all of that in heaven. But faith, hope, and love will abide, and the greatest is love. The greatest is love. And the reason that the greatest is love is because God is love. And the reason we can expect to have these virtues in our lives is because we are adopted sons and daughters of love, of God. Our identity is that we're made in the image of love. And so, yes, God is love, but how does that show up as a virtue, as a habit in our lives? Again, I'm going to go back to the Catechism and get a definition for love. The Catechism says that charity, or love, is the theological virtue by which we love God above all things for his own sake, and we love our neighbor as ourselves for the love of God. Now, how would you like that definition if instead it said something like this? This is not what it says, but what if it said this? Love is a virtue by which we feel warm and mushy feelings towards God, or feel pretty happy about our neighbor. Jesus doesn't tell us that we need to feel love for one another as I have felt love for you. Now, did Jesus feel love for us? He did. And feelings are good and important. But that's not what he says. He doesn't say feel good about other people. Anybody here know Tina Turner? What's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? I'm sorry, Tina Turner, but love is not just a second-hand emotion. But that's often how we treat it. We treat it like, well, I can't love my enemy. I can't stand them. How can I love them? You can love people who you can't stand. because we're not going to turn to Tina Turner, we're going to turn to St. Thomas Aquinas to get what love is all about. St. Thomas says that love is willing the good of the other. Willing the good of the other. That doesn't mean I have to like them. It means that I will their good. And willing is more than wanting. Because if willing was just wanting, if it was just desire, which theological virtue would it be? Desire is hope. Hope. I don't just hope for good things to happen to other people. I do hope, but that's not love yet. That's just hope. To really love someone is to will their good, which means that we want to bring that desire into reality. We want to bring the desire into reality. That's love. And so therefore, it involves action, which is why Jesus says in the gospel today, blessed is that slave, that servant, that Christian, that person who the master will find at work when he arrives. Not at feeling, not at hoping, but at work, doing something. This is why we classically say, what would Jesus do? Not, what would Jesus feel? Now, it's not unimportant what Jesus feels. What Jesus feels, what he thinks, it's important. But it always flows into action. That's what love is. God is an active and loving God. And so when Jesus tells us to love our enemies, he's not saying feel happy or pleased with them. He's saying do actions to bring that hope for good things in their life into reality. Into reality. And this happens in so many ways. One of the greatest ways we can show love to others is to tell them about God. What Jesus told us to do is go. Go make disciples of all nations. Do you know that at the time of Jesus, not all of those other nations were friends with the early Christians? They were enemies. The Romans persecuted and killed them. Do you think that all the Christians had warm, mushy feelings towards the Romans? No, but they actively loved them. Now, maybe that didn't mean that they baked them cookies and brought them to them and then got killed. We have to discern the right way to show love. But they actively loved them, so much so that now we're in a place that is connected to the Holy Roman Catholic Church. We loved our enemies so much that it's in the name of our church now. That is active love. That's active love. It takes the theological virtues, though, to switch from a place of feeling afraid, of feeling like I can't approach my enemies and show love to them, to a place where I can. We need to turn around our thinking and our ways, and we need God's ways. And the theological virtues help us to do that. So, another example with a bagel. Let's say that I go home, and let's say Deacon Carl is around, and I walk into the house and the bagel's gone. I might not have such warm, fuzzy feelings towards Deacon Carl, because he ate my bagel. And I had faith that it was going to be there, and now I'm upset. And I had hoped to eat it, and now it's gone. And I love bagels. But I'm called to love Deacon Carl. So I need to switch around my stinking thinking. And I have, because I was a teacher, I have a little handout for you. And it's got some things on it to help you apply the theological virtues in your life. I call it the TV turnaround process, the theological virtue turnaround process. And I put it on a little TV screen because we need to monitor our feelings. You're welcome. All right, really quickly. So, how do the theological virtues help if I'm angry at Deacon Carl? First, faith. What do I know about the situation? Faith is about knowledge. First, I want to write down what I think I know. Oh, it's up there. Fantastic. That's great. First, I want to write down what I think I know about the situation. And then, I want to surrender that to God and say, you know what, I might be wrong. Maybe Deacon Carl didn't eat the bagel. Maybe it was Father Tim. I don't know. So God, help me to set aside what I think I know and help me to be open to whatever is really true, because I want to have your faith in this. I want to know what's true about the situation. Secondly, hope. What do I desire? Well, I desire to eat that bagel. Well, was there any selfishness in that? Well, I mean, I wanted the bagel, and I just put it there on the counter, and I didn't put my name on it. And maybe it was a little bit selfish of me to think that I should get to eat whatever I want that's in the house. Other people live there too. Deacon Carl's actually gluten-free, but anyway, he would never eat my bagel. Then we ask, okay, well, God, what would you desire? What do you desire in this situation? Maybe it's to talk to Deacon Carl and say, hey, should I put more bagels on the list? Maybe that's the loving thing to do, but pray about it. And then thirdly, love. Again, connecting with God's heart, we ask, what's the real truth of the situation? And pray, what is the loving, right next action? Maybe it's to have a conversation with Deacon Carl. Maybe it's to buy more bagels for the house. But this is something that we can actually apply in our everyday life. Okay? So I do encourage you, pick one of these up, throw it in your Bible, throw it in your journal, throw it on your fridge, and try it out, especially the next time that something bothers you. The next time you're not feeling those warm, mushy feelings to someone, ask God, what is the real situation, and how can I approach it with faith, with hope, and with love? Because remember, we are the daughters and the sons of love. And with that, we can change the whole world if we're willing to do things in God's way.